Ashton Kutcher was speaking at an event, and he was actually interrupted by a protester named Ariel, who took issue with his involvement and his investment in the company Airbnb. I think we have a photo of the protester's sign. There we go. Airbnb, out of settlements, at Code Pink Ariel Gold. So Ashton Kutcher actually invited Ariel up on stage, and he said, well, he didn't invite her. She walked on stage, and then he engaged with her, but I'm being very nice saying that he invited her. He says, we can get to know each other intimately and understand our collective narratives as a narrative for everyone, and then we can all belong in a world together without borders. Now, what exactly is he referencing? What is Code Pink? So this is what Ariel Gold told the press association. She says, quote, I took to the stage to ask Airbnb to remove their listings from Israeli settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. I think Ashton Kutcher needs to use his power and influence in the company to pressure Airbnb to finally remove these listings. We are entering an administration which we expect to be horrible for Palestinian human rights. It's more important now that people rise up and demand equality and freedom and justice for all people from Palestine to Los Angeles. She also went on to talk about Airbnb being complicit in the displacement in Los Angeles and their role in gentrification also happening in the LA area. And, she has gotten the press and the influence and sort of the coverage that she was looking for. Do you think this was constructive? Do you think that we're talking about the issue at hand here, which is a super really important thing to talk about with regards to the Airbnb settlements that you can rent on, I guess, Palestinian land? This is just from my layman's research, but I don't know if this sort of protest is constructive because, again, the headline here is Ashton Kutcher defending Airbnb. No. We're not necessarily talking about the problematic structures and settlements that Airbnb is renting out.
I disagree a little bit, only because I've experienced firsthand how powerful a testament like this can be when you utilize someone who's exterior from the issue. And exterior meaning they're not actually in Palestine, they're not going through this example themselves, but they maybe have some sort of celebrity name, a platform. So one that resonates really close to me is my beloved Glasgow Celtic, a team in Scotland. Their fans they felt like a connection to Palestinians, therefore they vowed to fly Palestinian flags during a game against an Israeli team to show their support for Palestine. They were immediately told that they were going to be fined. If they did it, they were going to have repercussions. So they were fined, they flew the Palestinian flags, and then they ended up raising £130,000 to meet the fine that they were going to face and donated it to Palestinian charities. So that's where I feel like yes, it isn't exactly talking about the issue directly as much, but you can see a carryover effect. You can see more issue being shed light on the purpose of the person who's putting forward the protest. So I understand where she's coming from. Like, she wants to feel like maybe she wants to try and make noise wherever she is. It doesn't have to happen within the area that it's involved in, but if you get a celebratory name to maybe stand by it.
Do you think Ashton Kutcher responded effectively? Because I think that his answer, really, it doesn't actually say anything. Do you know what I mean? Saying our collective narrative as a narrative for everyone, we can all belong in a world together without borders.
That wasn't a statement. That's what he said on stage, right?
Right, that's what he said on stage.
So it's off the cuff. It just a little bit because it's literally nonsense.
It's off the cuff. It doesn't make any sense, but I wonder if maybe
he
wasn't.
It
made me sort of wonder if maybe he didn't, even though he is an investor in Airbnb, it makes me wonder if perhaps he wasn't. He didn't really understand what was going on in the West Bank,
pretty sure
Israeli-occupied territories.
Kutcher is not totally down on what's happening.
No, there's no doubt, and that's where I think this is another conversation. I think we had it once on Pop Trigger where. Sometimes celebrities, because they have platforms, are expected to speak out on things, and sometimes they'll just speak out instinctively and think that they're making a difference. I remember we did a story on, I think it was Zayn Malik, when he got told to speak out on Black Lives Matter, and I don't think he just like instinctive. It was almost like I'll type that, and then he sent it out, and people were like, what are you saying? Like, so I don't believe, like, for me, a lot of the time, I argued the case that I think you're trying to make, is that at times we're too busy focusing on them and their response rather than
instead
the actual
issue. Instead of the real issue that Airbnb should address.
Where was he speaking? Like, why was he on stage?
So this is what I can tell you. He was speaking at an event, a nondescript event in Los Angeles.
Okay, so it wasn't nothing to do with this, and she comes out on stage.
Absolutely nothing to do with this.
So he was polite, he engaged with her, so God bless him on that. Ashton Kutcher is not the bad guy in this situation.
No,
because he's an investor in Airbnb.
I was just trying to make the case I know her point, why she was trying to do something like this.
I got it. I would not have confronted Ashton Kutcher, and she would argue that because it got press, therefore it was worth it. But we can get to know each other intimately and understand our collective narrative as a narrative for everyone, and that we can all belong in a world together without borders.
And
it's pretty priceless.
Yes.
As
think
a nonsense strung together.
In general, upon doing a little bit more research about this story, I also sort of think that Ariel Gold, I really like what I think it's so important what she was protesting and getting out there. I think, of course, I agree with that. However, the sign, Airbnb out of settlements, I think the one job a sign has is to be like, this point, this is it. Like, this is what's happening. This is how I feel about it. Yeah. Airbnb out of settlements, it could, now we know what it means, but I didn't know what it means.
It's because, so another thing to be realistic about is we don't cover enough about the goings on in Palestine. I don't think news outlets do enough. So this is something I'm very familiar with. I really am interested in looking into it further. So I understand what she meant, but again, I've been educated.
Would you have understood it if I didn't give you any
context
to show you the sign?
No, but obviously when you say Airbnb, no settlements, what she's trying to do is she's trying to pose a reaction as to, I know Airbnb. What is she talking about? Let me look into it and see. Therefore, because she's in Los Angeles, she's probably thinking not a lot of people are going to be aware of what she's trying to get across.
I can do a better job for her. Here we go. Airbnb back out of these Israeli-occupied territories in the West Bank.
Yeah, that's better. It's a more direct.
Then you know exactly what it is. I
just
feel like that
literally
was
out of West Bank settlements. We'd at least know.
Airbnb out of West Bank settlements.
Yeah, we'd have
there
at
you
least
go. So Ariel Gold, please.
Just smaller font size.
That.
So we have to go. I will ask you, I don't understand, where I lose Ariel Gold is, first of all, I'm Jewish when I need to be, I would defend with many other Jews Israel's right to exist and protect their borders, and they should get everybody out of every settlement. And they should start doing it tomorrow. That's not your territory. It's not your land. Get out. And they're not settlements. That makes it sound like they're tents. They're giant housing developments. They're like tract housing, like it's a community, it's a city that you've built, and you just keep building and keep building and keep building and keep building. It's bad. It's bad for the Jews. But I don't understand about the Airbnb displacement and the gentrification. I really don't. And I'm sure there are people who will make a good lefty case to me as to why I should care, and I'm still pretty sure in the end of the day I'm not going to care.
I think the idea is to try and get it to resonate so that we pay attention to it more.
No, I'm not talking about Israel. I'm talking about why in Los Angeles.
Okay,
what's wrong with Airbnb in Los Angeles?
Okay, so I found a lot of stuff about this in New York and in some parts of
San
Los
Francisco
Angeles.
too. I've read about it in San Francisco, definitely.
I'm not so sure about what's going on in LA.
Okay, we'll give me in a different city. We'll just.
Okay, so basically, landlords, the incentive is that landlords and owners of buildings can just rent out their apartment complexes at a way higher price
as Airbnb rather than rent them to actual residents.
And for shorter term leases.
And make more money, and so nobody lives there.
Nobody lives there, and so then it drives up the pricing of housing in other places because you have these big buildings in prime locations that people are paying top dollar for.
I'm sure that's happened in some buildings. Whether that's widespread enough that it's actually driving up rates would have to be studied, right?
Right. I still want to find a little bit more research about exactly what's going on in the Los Angeles area, but I know it is a problem in San Francisco and New York.
But housing in San Francisco has always been difficult. I don't know did Airbnb cause a significant spike? I'm dubious. You feel free to prove me wrong, but I got to tell you, that's like 2,833rd most important thing happening in our country. The Airbnb settlements, look, it's a way to, it is the latest way to bring attention to the outrage of consistently building settlements in the occupied territories.
Well, I think they said that Code Pink, which is part of the organization, I guess, that she's representing, describes itself as a grassroots peace and social justice movement that demonstration was staged to demand Airbnb stop listing stolen homes in illegal settlements. So she's trying to represent the idea that this isn't just happening across seas. This is happening right here at home, so that she tries to get it to resonate here so that people might pay attention to it. As you mentioned, whether or not it has some substance or not, maybe there needs to be some sort of clarification as to the message that she's putting across overall. But again, whether her motive is to bring light to an issue that she wants to bring light to, that we've not been focusing on as much, then
I said with this, I never really thought I would say this, but I feel bad for Ashton Kutcher.
The whole 2-hour podcast of the Young Turks, commercial-free.
You're gonna get it.
If you become a member, tytnetwork.com/join.